JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the Jojolands, Chapter 2 is finally out, and I have to say this was another really good chapter, and it honestly blows my expectations for this part way out of the water due to the fact that some of my predictions for the most part were completely wrong, as we actually get to the island we were supposed to within a chapter, and seems like things are going to be a bit more complicated. Not to mention, we get the return of a very well-known character that I don't think anybody expected to be the case, and that was honestly something that really leave the fans off with a month before the next chapter. Now, before I get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows you guys like the JoJo content on this channel. I want to try and keep doing JoJo's every month with these chapter reviews, as well as other JoJo stuff that I have planned to do as well. I actually have the final part of my Stillborn Rum review in the works. I'm just keeping that on hold, working on it slowly in the background, so I can upload it at some point, as I have other stuff I want to put out on the channel. So I ended up putting that on the back burner for now, and also get Jojolands reviews started at some point, as well as other JoJo's related content once Jojolands gets enough chapters for me to make actual videos on it outside of the chapter reviews. But let's hit that intro and get right into the chapter. So Jojolands, Chapter 2, The Japanese Person on Hawaii Island. This chapter starts off with a full 2-page panel breakup spread with a young girl moving on a bicycle towards Jodio's location, asking if he was Kate's friend. She goes up to Jodio asking if he has the stuff, since she has an exam coming up. Jodio looks at her and is just being nonchalant, asking who she is. I don't know, a Kate. Should probably get out of here. And as she walks away, Jodio kind of just says, "Where's your enthusiasm? You wanted this, right? Look, I think I remember you. You owe me some money. Put it in the can over there, and we'll see what happens." Jodio then goes on a monologue stating that a lot of times, despite him selling stuff at his school, Meryl May tells him to try and go to colleges to try and get college kids to buy the stuff that he's selling, as staying in one place will kind of make profits go stagnant. So he tends to go to different places if the need be. So after a little bit back and forth, I'm not going to go through the entire conversation, Jodio basically accuses the woman of being a cop. She walks away and then immediately turns around and tells him how things kind of work with undercover cops, because legally they have to say that they are a cop if they're asked. So he then asks, she says no, and puts money in the jar, and Jodio then points her in the direction to where the stuff will end up being lied. Now, this is actually an important piece of information due to the fact that technically he brings with the fact that maybe the bike that she's on has a camera or a mic for evidence, but since she brings up the fact that if she says no, technically that means the evidence is not really good in court, since she technically lies, is not 100% truth, that won't be the case. So the young woman goes off to where Jodio points towards a statue. Paco then drives by on his scooter, tells her to go underneath her feet as it was left right there. She then looks, it's underneath a leaf. She then pulls out a gun out from her bag and tells him to go on their knees. She was an undercover cop and she's arresting Jodio, and some other undercover cops jump onto Paco. They cuff Jodio as he was surprised that she was actually lying. And she kind of brings up the fact that, yeah, there was a recorder and a video camera on the bike, so they have all the evidence. So then what they really need is the material evidence to convict them, saying that they're gophers and they're really just aiming for their boss. As she walks away, she just tells the rest of the police officers to read them their rights and to lock them up. But Jodio gets grabbed by the mouth, and we see that turns out the police officer he kind of stomped on and humiliated after that whole incident in Chapter 1, just so happened to coincidentally work with this investigation, and now he found Jodio, saying a bunch of inappropriate stuff that I will not end up saying in this video, but let's just say he says something that really pisses off Jodio, as he says, "I really should have just killed you guys right then and there," but he says, "I don't care about you guys at all, I'm warning you. Don't say stuff like that ever again," as he then activates his stand November Rain, as he states all they really need is the evidence. With no evidence, they can't arrest him. So November Rain then uses the raindrops on the woman, as it then crashes the evidence of the stuff on the ground, and it dissipates into the water, making it non-usable evidence. Jodio even states that he wants to give them a piece of their mind, but right now he just shouldn't do anything. Those who can't see his stand aren't really going to react to it, as we see another image of November rain, as it then hits the police officers with these rain pellets, knocking them to the ground. Now, it's not using the same effects as last time, but they are being brought to the ground and they're just trying to run away, wondering what's going on with this freaky rain. So the officers kind of go away and they kind of don't have the evidence at all. As Paco says, "So this is your stand, Jodio. I kind of like it. I'm starting to like you a lot more now." Jodio then trails off into something that isn't pertaining to what's going on right now to an extent, but states that he had to go to like psychological therapy at his school and it's being paid for. So he basically took a bunch of tests and questions, and the doctor basically diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder or psychopathy. And for those of you that don't know, let me just give you a brief definition of what psychopathy means. It's basically a neuropsychiatric disorder marked by deficient emotional responses, lack of empathy, and poor behavioral controls. And based on his behavior that we've seen for the most part, it seems to kind of gear towards the fact that that might actually be true. But then again, that's only from what we've seen so far. We can't be 100% sure. The lack of empathy and not really being super social with other people, say for his brother and his co-workers, if it starts to fit a little bit. But anyway, it goes on to say that this test was basically like a checklist, and apparently 18 of them applied to him, but his mother basically just didn't want any of it, saying that how dare you make such judgments about my child, I want a refund, with the interaction ending with Jodio just stating, "I'll try and be careful." He asks, "Could someone like me ever be happy? I mean, I think I probably could, if I just work for it. But the reality of the world is that there are all hidden, unfair places where I'll meet scum like these guys, the officers, and other people." He says, "It makes me want to lose my mind." As after this incident, we smash forward to the island of Hawaii with our new cast member making it and meeting up with the group. Turns out he's late. He was supposed to show up and grab their car, and yeah, he ends up being late, unable to get the car. But he states, "Alright, I know a place where we'll get the car. Don't worry, come with me." They've got cars that don't have GPS and no built-in cameras. He also states that since he's going to be getting to the car, let's just split it up $30 each. And then we learn the guy's name, this new character's name, who is Osagi Alohaoi. Anyway, Paco just states, this guy's definitely got a drug problem. He's way too weirdly enthusiastic. Dragona states that their boss vouched for him, said he's a good kid, so they should trust her for the time being. They then get their rental car, and they move out to the location. And we get some nice double-page spreads of them just driving through the Hawaii Island highway, getting to their location. They park somewhere off the road, with Paco, Usagi, and Dragona just laying on the car, as Jodio comes up from over the hill, whispering information into Dragona's ear, stating how this person is still at his house and doesn't seem to be leaving his condo anytime soon. They're kind of being shut in and they're not moving, stating that they're basically going to be spending time at the pool based off of what's been laid out on the table: glasses of ice, ginger ale, some coffee, a towel, and an iPad. So it seems that they're really just planning on staying out and swimming on the terrace, or just doing some exercise, or just relaxing and hanging out by the pool. So Paco pulls out a map showing that there's 5 bedrooms, 6 studies, and bathrooms, not to mention a second floor, stating that this might actually work. Jodio confirms that the guy is in fact alone. There's no family, no housekeepers, or even like an AC repairman or anything, and the only thing they would have to worry about is some surprise visitors showing up out of the blue. Paco says that Jodio will still be on lookout, and the rest of them will head by the pool. And that, given how things are with this current situation, it shouldn't take them more than 15 minutes to get everything done, grab the diamond, and get out without the man noticing anything. And right now their main target is the master bedroom, and they have to open the safe. We're going to ask them to put their masks and earphones in so they can be ready for when they infiltrate the place. Usagi jokingly says that they should do colored nicknames, but Paco just shuts him down. They get up towards the house, towards the gate, and they realize that there are security cameras right there, so they're wondering what to do. But Usagi just tells Dragona, "Say, I want a camera." As he says, "I can't say it myself, you have to be the one to do it, otherwise it won't work." So Dragona says, "I want a camera." Usagi moves out his hand. As we see appear from his hand is his stand, which is like a little like mechanical chicken little thing. It's adorable and cute at the exact same time, as everyone notices that he's using a stand power. I'll get into this in a second, but how exactly did they get stands? Is there like a devil's palm, or is there some other thing? I haven't read part 8, so I don't know if there's like another thing to give you stand abilities, or people can just be born with stand abilities, so don't spoil that for me. I'll probably have my Jojolian videos done probably within the next month or two, depending on how that's done. But right now I'm curious to see how they're going to utilize stand abilities and how they got their stand abilities, if they were in fact born with them. Anyway, Usagi's stand ends up going over, climbing up the wall, touching the camera, and when it does, it creates a duplicate. As Usagi says that the stand name is the Mate Kudasai, which essentially says using an existing thing, it can shapeshift into another thing that someone wants. And since Dragona stated, I want a camera, it ended up transforming into a camera. Usagi goes up and says now there's a real camera and a fake camera, meaning there are going to be two different images, as we see two separate panels, with one showing Usagi's face, while the other one showing a distorted face, a left camera and a right camera now. So there's going to be different, and thus since there's going to be two different sets of cameras and footage, no one will know what the right one is, and so it'll basically be considered fake, meaning that they can't use it for any photo evidence. So everyone just starts the operation. They're going inside as Jodio goes by the pool to be a lookout, as we see this mysterious person swimming back and forth in the pool for exercise. Jodio keeps an eye out for them, and then he recognizes this Japanese man. He says he's famous. I have some of his books at home, and I always watch the anime adaptations online. So that's why he's been hiding away in this villa separated from public life. As the final page of the chapter shows us that this mysterious person is none other than Rohan Kishibe, a manga artist. So if none of you really know, somehow, Rohan Kishibe is basically Araki's self-insert character that he introduced in part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. Honestly, I love the character. He was so much fun to see on screen. Very weird personality, over the top sometimes. I loved him. And I saw the reactions to Rohan online, some being like, oh, he's finally back, to being like, Araki, you cheeky bastard, because apparently during Jojolands, people were wondering if Rohan would come back in any way, shape, or form, since they're going to be in Morio in part 8. And Araki basically says, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think Rohan's going to be making an appearance. That's kind of set in stone at the moment. And looking back at the first page of Chapter 1 of Jojolands, it basically describes stands, and the byline was like, a mangaka. So it's very possible that after that comment he got in Jojolands, he thought about it more, and I guess when he came up with the story for Jojolands, he decided to implement Rohan into the story. So instead of getting a character from a previous part of JoJo's in this main universe, he just reintroduced a new version of Rohan in this universe, which I find hilariously genius, because you get AU versions of past characters, but now we have Rohan in the present day in part 9. I can't wait to see what he does and what he's going to do for the story, because chapter 1 ended with, we didn't know what we were in for, and 4 people definitely wasn't enough. So are they going to fight Rohan? Is Rohan's involvement going to have something to do with some other stand gangs or whatever? Is this just, as we all know, it can't be super simple. It is all just going to snowball into one big thing. And apparently, based off of some of the images we got, this might end up being an island hopping adventure going all through every single island of Hawaii. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go and what Rohan's role is going to play. Maybe he'll be like an informant, maybe he'll join the group as maybe he wants to just witness them for inspiration for his next manga chapter or next manga series. Which, honestly, I feel like that's something that Rohan would actually do, because he's out looking for basically anything to inspire him. And I guess being in this villa in Hawaii is probably not just to relax, but also maybe to find some other inspiration for something that he wants to do for his next issue of his manga. Which, another question, does he still have his same stand like he did in part 4? Is he still going to have Heaven's Door? Because if so, I think that's actually be a perfect idea to go for, because they just feel like a wasted opportunity to reintroduce Rohan and not have him have his original stand back. and I just think that would be really cool. Maybe it'll have some upgrades, or maybe it'll be an entirely different stand with similar abilities. Either way, I'm really excited. Not to mention, I feel like maybe ARAKI would have missed bringing Rohan into a story due to the sheer fact that we really have a spin-off manga following Rohan's adventures in his daily life, whether in Morio or out of Morio, that kind of sets place in the original universe. So I'm honestly really curious about that. But yeah, that was all my thoughts, speculations on the chapter. That was my review, going through the whole thing. What did you guys think of this chapter? What do you think of Rohan's introduction into this new JoJo universe in Part 9? What role do you think he's going to play? Do you think he still has Heaven's Door, if he's even a stand user in this universe right now? How do you think everyone got their stand abilities? What do you think of Usagi's stand being basically the ability to duplicate things when someone asks them to want something? And how do you think just this whole event is going to snowball in the future, because there's no way they're going to get the diamond and get out of there now that we had the cliffhanger of Rohan basically being in Part 9. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below, and also your theories and opinions. Not to mention, if you want me to cover any other JoJo topics on the channel, whether it be certain fights you want to hear me talk about in detail from previous parts that I've gotten to, or just top 10s, or just discussions on what you think is going to happen next. But yeah, that seems to be it for the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps. It shows you guys like the JoJo content I'm planning to make. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.